and his relationship with the Sixers. The man who knows all is with us live. Woj, what's the very latest?
Greeny, certainly the tone and tenor of this really 4-month standoff between the Sixers and Ben Simmons changed today. He came into the team's facility, told the medical staff, Doc Rivers, and his teammates that he wasn't ready mentally to meet his own expectations to play. And he's going to seek professional help. And the Sixers, listen, they're being supportive, and they're going to make sure that all of their assistance, all of their resources are available to Ben Simmons. And listen, they were very aggressive leading up to this and wanting to get him on the court. But with what he told them today, it changes the tone of it. And now the Sixers will work with Ben Simmons, to try to get to a place where maybe he's able to return at some point.
Okay, fair enough. And while the tone changes, I would not imagine that the intention on his part or theirs to trade him changes as well. So what is the latest, as best we know it, on their attempts to trade Ben Simmons and anything else we're hearing around the league?
Greeny, here's what's interesting. That the Sixers play the Nets, obviously, tonight, who are without Kyrie Irving. Daryl Morey has called all over the league, talked to teams about star players everywhere and trying to find a deal for Ben Simmons. One team he has not called, I'm told, that's the Brooklyn Nets. He has not lobbed a call to Sean Marks, their GM, about Kyrie Irving. Brooklyn, I'm told, has taken incoming calls from teams on Kyrie Irving, but they have not themselves made any calls about Irving. So Brooklyn and Philadelphia, with these two players in limbo, they have not talked to each other about a Simmons for Kyrie Irving trade.
All right, teams in different situations, but in some ways very similar circumstances. Woj, stay close with the very latest. Outstanding as always. And you mentioned the different tone we're hearing in Philadelphia. Tobias Harris, perhaps a good example of that. If you take a look and see what he posted today when talking about his teammate Ben Simmons, he said, we'll respect his privacy and space during this time. When he's ready, we will embrace our brother with love and handle our business on the court. That's it. That's all. So the tone changes. The intentions, we assume, do not. Stephen A., what happens now?
Well, the Sixers will play that song and dance with everybody else and think somebody's buying it. I'm not. They don't believe Ben Simmons. I don't care what anybody says, because you can't believe him. Now, if you listen to Ben Simmons' camp, Rich Paul, his brother Sean, his brother Liam, guys like that, they will tell you that Doc Rivers, Elton Brand, Daryl Morey heard from Ben Simmons before that he wasn't mentally ready to play. Well, that was in July. Well, what about August? About September? It's now October, going into November. What efforts did you put forth to address those issues? We didn't know that, because had you done that, then perhaps Doc Rivers would not have thrown you out of your second practice that you were with the team, because we all know Doc Rivers to be a bit more compassionate than that, if indeed you had expressed those issues before. So nobody's buying this in terms of, I'm talking about the 76ers. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about, they're going to say the right things because you have no choice. If a guy is telling you, listen, I'm not ready mentally, I'm just not there, et cetera, yeah, you might believe that to some degree, but in your mind's eye, you're raising that eyebrow and you're saying, well, this might allow you to get to stay home and not play and still get paid. So you better believe the Sixers going to talk to the league office. The Sixers going to talk to a few people. They're paying attention to what's going on. They're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But trust me, it's with the proverbial raised eyebrow. Make no mistake about that.
It is, Stephen A. And I'm sure that that's the position they're coming from.
Right.
We are in a different place now with this conversation.
Absolutely.
And particularly as I go to other sports, Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles, the conversation has changed. And it's changed for everybody. It's changed for every sport. It has changed for every athlete. Simone Biles is the GOAT, probably, of her sport. Mm-hmm. So these people, the two I just mentioned, are much more accomplished in their respective sports than Ben Simmons is in his. And yet it's a conversation changer now. This conversation wouldn't have even been held 5 years ago, maybe not even 3 years ago. And now we're at a point where when Ben Simmons says this, there's no choice but to say, okay, we're listening to you. What does it mean? I mean, what do other clubs think? Because what does the league think? They've got to have people talk to, listen to Ben Simmons. And money, so much money is at stake. Your last point is critically important, because the Sixers are going to be saying, okay, is that just your tip? You have to look at this skeptically as well. even though it's a conversation changer. Both, yes.
So this is extremely ugly, and it's bad for everybody involved. It's bad for the Sixers because you got to come in if you're Daryl Morey and realize if you're deciding to build around Joel Embiid that Ben isn't attempting shots outside of the paint, so they don't fit. So you got to find a way to get a deal done. When they get bounced by the Atlanta Hawks, and we've heard so much about the process, and we've seen the Raptors go win it all. We've seen the Miami Heat win the Eastern Conference. We've seen the Bucks go win it all. They ain't getting closer. They getting further away. And then Ben Simmons has donuts in the fourth quarter, and they lose, right? That right there is going to play on anybody's psyche. And that's the tricky part about being an athlete. And this is why I implore young people to play sports, because it teaches you life skills, social skills, how to deal with success, how to deal with failure. So there is some pain and disappointment knowing that when you put on that uniform, that 30,000 people ready to boo you. Yes. When you're getting in and out of your car, you're not welcome in Philadelphia. Like, there is something to that. Now, a lot of this is self-inflicted. What he could have did is show up early. You know what? I would have been the first person there. If I didn't really want to play, I'd have been the first person there. Laid on the table, my back hurt. Then all of a sudden the narrative changes. But now we're at a point where I still believe in order to move him, he actually has to play again.
It is worth reiterating we're at a time and place, and this is a good thing where people's understanding of the... Tim, what can you tell us?
Well, Greeny, I just got done talking to Doc Rivers, and after Ben Simmons met with the team this morning, Doc went out of his way to frame this as a very positive step forward, saying multiple times today was a good day. And really, whenever he was asked for any kind of timeline in this situation, he went out of his way to say, look, I'm only focused on what's happening right now, and right now I'm focused on what happened this morning, which was a good thing for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, obviously, this is the first time that Ben Simmons has really engaged with his teammates since coming back from missing the first couple weeks of training camp as he went through this holdout, trying to get traded away from the Philadelphia 76ers. And Joel Embiid, when I asked him on Tuesday if he'd talked to Ben Simmons at this point, told me that he hadn't. And so today was the first time they had any kind of dialogue at all. And that's another thing that Doc Rivers framed as a positive step forward, saying that he's focused on the possibilities of what's to come rather than focusing on the problem that's immediately at hand. So, look, this is obviously a rough situation for the Sixers. It's not something that they're happy about, but they're trying to frame this as a good step forward, and we'll wait and see where it goes from here.
All right, Tim Bontemps, thank you. We'll be with you all night long tonight as we get set for the game. We bring it out here, and Stephen A., I'll start with you. Obviously, the dynamic changes a little, but I think the primary question remains the same. Will Ben Simmons ever play for the Sixers again?
I can't see it. I truly cannot, Greeny, Will Bond, Jalen. Here's the deal. Certainly, it's a possibility because if you don't move him, you have to surmise that the guy's going to ultimately want to get his $33+ million per year, and at some time he'll have to come back for that. But by taking the position that he has taken and given indications, because the reports initially said when they came out this morning that he connected with the Sixers players, the Sixers staff, their medical staff. And so when you said medical and he has no injury to speak of, and then they brought into the issue his mental state of mind, well, then you're talking about mental health. And because of that, that sounds to me like the perfect way to depart from playing for the team while still ensuring you're getting paid. I'm in no way questioning, I'm not qualified to question the legitimacy as to whether it's true or not. None of us are doing that. What I'm saying is ultimately what it means is that you're not going to play, but you're still going to get paid because they're going to have a hard time taking your money from you.
I actually believe he does end up playing for the team again. Like, your actions have to equal getting towards your goals. And the Sixers and he ultimately want him moved. The only way that's going to happen is to rebuild his value. He lost it last year when they got bounced in the process to the Atlanta Hawks. So now he has to get back out there and play. They had a turbulent offseason. It's not just on him. I also blame Daryl Morey. When you get this job and you look at Ben Simmons' deal, you have to look at what me and you talked about. These two parts don't fit going long term.
Right.
So if you know you got to move them, it can't get to this point.
It's so toxic, though. I don't think he can rebuild his value by playing for the Sixers. How? His teammates don't want to play. Joel Embiid didn't want him there. So how can you rebuild the value? Yes, Jalen, you're right. That's what they hope for. But here's where, and Daryl Morey seemed to have all the leverage yesterday when he talked about this can go for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And you know who reclaimed some leverage today? Ben Simmons. Because when you think about what we've seen and heard from Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles, two people who are much greater in their respective sports than Ben Simmons is in his, much more accomplished as champions. You look at this and you say, okay, now Ben has talked about this. We have to listen. We have to take it seriously, even though we're just like Stephen A. said, none of us are qualified to question how legitimate this is. But once you have that out there, I said yesterday or 2 days ago it was a messy divorce. It just got messier. So now who's going to determine whether or not his mental situation right now, mental, emotional situation, allows him to even get out there for the Philadelphia 76ers or any other team at this point?
I think the thing that we have to pay attention to, guys, is this. I'm not disagreeing with where y'all are coming from. I'm simply making the point that, again, if you're going to bring into issue mental health, and that's a reason that can be utilized for you to stay home while getting paid, and everybody and their grandmother knows he did not want to be on that court tonight for the Philadelphia 76ers because of that fan base and how they were going to greet him in light of the fact that they interpreted his actions throughout the offseason as blaming them for him not stepping up. That's some heat he didn't want to take. Doc Rivers is happy because all Doc Rivers wants from him is two things. Talk to your teammates, which he did today, and show up against those fans, which he has not done. And until he does that, that's the huge question mark. And where do you go? Where do you go?
But in losing, there's pain. Yeah. And Kawhi Leonard's shot broke their heart. And I always felt in watching Ben Simmons, there was a psychological block for a player so very skilled, so very talented, that doesn't attempt shots outside of the paint. That was extraordinary.